Hi, I'm Mark Bossert. I'm an advanced public speaking coach with Ultra Speaking, and I do personal coaching at livelyspeaking.com. I'm appearing with Prosper Taruvinga at the Online Prosperity Show, and you can look forward to experiencing a little bit of how to calm yourself in the moment through your breath and how to practice speaking even without getting any coaching, how to get better at it.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we've got a guest whose journey from avoiding public speaking to becoming a beacon of confidence for others is nothing short of inspiring. Now, Mark, how are you doing today?
Good. Prosper Taruvinga, good to meet you. How are you going, mate?
Hey, Ozzy's the legend. I am doing fantastic and all the best for having seen you. You know, when we started, I had butterflies in my stomach. I was nervous and, I had that fear and I was anxious. And it happens to a lot of people when they're about to get on stage, right? But you obviously have ways and methods to eliminate that. And I can't wait to jump into that and actually connect with our audience so that they too can be doing have a happier existence if they can speak their way to success. Now, for those that are watching, I want you to imagine something. Imagine having to turn down promotions and maybe opportunities just due to the fear that you're afraid to speak in public, and then later becoming a coach who has actually empowered 1,500 individuals across 48 countries to find their own voice. That's the remarkable story we're about to embark on with Mark, who is the founder of Lively Speaking. Now, Mark's transformation began when he discovered Ultra Speaking. It is actually a unique approach that uses games to teach public speaking skills. And this method has actually unlocked the missing pieces for himself. And also, he's now been leading a rapid movement of people that are now learning to speak with confidence. And obviously, beyond his professional achievements in this speaking realm, Mark is a devoted husband of 41 years. You're going to have to tell us the secret there, man. He's also a father, a grandfather, and he's an adventurer at heart. I was snooping through his profile and I realized that he's actually trekked to Everest Base Camp, and he's also cycled across Western North America. And obviously, his life experiences, including his personal losses, triumphs, have actually shaped his empathetic approach to coaching. So in today's episode, we're going to dive into his journey, his innovative methods, and he has warned me that we're going to go through a coaching session. So if anything, you want to just stick around for that alone. And he's going to be teaching us all those invisible lessons that he's gathered along the way. Now, I could go on and on, Mark, and obviously, things like this are very important for a lot of people to be able to speak up. But for you, it wasn't always like this. Tell us a little bit about your journey, especially the parts when you would refuse a promotion just because you didn't want to speak up.
Sure. So I think it all started really when around grade 8 for me, where I was really noticing I was self-conscious. I remember walking towards school across the field and wondering if it was going to be a good day or a bad day. And a bad day was I would blush absolutely the brightest red you've ever seen if anyone talked to me, let alone be in front of the class. And that just multiplied over the years. That kept going. I did some amazing things in my book anyways. I won a national championship in kung fu. I did all kinds of travels, week-long trips in the mountains, in the Rockies, with friends, and hiking the Grand Canyon for over a week, leading a tour down there, all sorts of things. But I was always limited by my ability to public speak, by how much fear I had and rumination for days ahead of time, trying to figure out all the exact words I would say, sleepless nights, terrified of speaking. And then that limited everything. I turned down jobs, I turned down opportunities, promotions, all through my career. I jumped around a lot in my career. But ultimately, it came down to I was reading a book called Ultra Learning. And in there was a story about a fellow who in 7 months went from the same as me to the World Championship finals in Toastmasters, in public speaking. And I put the book down, I started searching, where is this ultra speaking thing? And 2 hours later, I was in a class. And thus began an incredible transformation where I went from terrified to still nervous, quite honestly, but I know how to control it. What I've learned in the path is that when there's risk, when our brain perceives uncertainty, it prepares. And we feel that. It's powerful. That squirt of adrenaline and cortisol into our bloodstream, it's powerful. And the key to not being overwhelmed by it, but actually being able to regulate it and then use it to speak, to be really authentic, to speak off the cuff, to do it under pressure, to talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime, requires learning how to dance with those nerves, that anxiety, that fear, whatever you want to call it. Butterflies, we've got lots of names for it, but ultimately it's, the wave's too big. So once we learn how to surf it, the confidence becomes unshakable. And then you can speak to anyone, anywhere, anytime. So in a nutshell, that's been my journey.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that with us. I mean, obviously, there's a stark difference from that boy in grade 8 to the man that just relayed that so eloquently. And we could just end this show right here because that was it right there. But, I want to take us back to that young boy at 8. Did you have any other siblings or friends that probably were going through that, or was that just a mock thing that was happening?
Part of the formula was that I was an only kid.
Okay.
Both of my parents were alcoholics, functioning alcoholics, but alcoholics, which made the world a little bit unsafe, untrustworthy. So I kind of lived with a level of uncertainty that just grew the older I got. And then some bad experiences. A friend and I, some friends and I, this was way back. This is in the early or mid 60s. Our school had a reel-to-reel tape recorder, portable one. And we discovered this in the library and we could take it out and we found a quiet place and we started recording ourselves, laughing and having fun. And I was having so much fun that I didn't want to leave. And I laughed so hard I peed my pants. And then I kept going and I peed them more and more and more until it was massively wet everywhere. And then I froze because of the anxiety of, oh no, everyone's going to see me. And instead of like going and hiding in the bathroom and then going home or whatever. There's many choices I could have made. Instead, I just walked out in front of everyone and was made fun of. Way more in my mind than in actual fact. But it was traumatic. And that was the start of an incredible increase in the self-consciousness. That was in grade 7. By grade 8, I was like just paralyzed with blushing and just overly concerned with how everyone perceived me. I think that really goes back to this one thing, though, that I would like to talk about a little bit, which is we sort of hide from the fact that being seen and heard, fully seen and heard by other human beings, is a core need for human beings. It's so powerful that puts extra pressure on us. And so that's where this whole thing sort of stems from, I believe, is that we need it, and yet there's so much risk involved in it that people might not like us. They might kick us out of the tribe if they don't like what we say, and that's tantamount to death. So there's a lot of pressure. Before we even deal with, oh, someone made fun of me, or the trauma that happened, or, I mean, almost every kid has had some sort of experience of that. And the ones who are so-called natural speakers had positive feedback. Enough during their growing up that they became addicted to how good it feels to be fully seen and heard by other people. Some of the rest of us, we learned that, that uncomfortable feeling that comes with the adrenaline and the cortisol, there's an easy off switch. Instead of raising my hand to speak up, if I just hide, the adrenaline and the cortisol go down. And instant off, and the body learns that, and it's easy then to say, well, I'm just not a person who speaks up. I'm not a person who does that, gives speeches to other people. And so in my coaching, that's what we're working on is, okay, how do we put you under pressure so that you know how to deal with the increase in adrenaline? Because there's no point in practicing in front of a mirror. I think that's the worst, among the worst kind of coaching that people can get. There's no pressure to that. But doing it, whether it's on video or in front of other people, playing games, man, the change, especially off the cuff speaking, where you can't prepare, which freaks a lot of people out, but is actually the fastest way to get really good at speaking.
Absolutely. I quite like that. And thank you so much for obviously taking us through all of that. And I like what you just said because as human beings, we're societal creatures. And that aspect of, us wanting to belong, to be a part of a tribe is what makes then our brains want to keep us safe all the time. So I mean, these days you did mention the caveman days or whatever. We no longer have the saber-toothed tiger, but we've got social media and people commenting and speaking back at us, and that alone feels like when we're not in alignment with what society wants off of us, that feedback is like being orchestrated to or what's the word for it, to chased away out of the
Ostracize us.
tribe. Yeah, outside the tribe. No, that is, like you said, is a fundamental human need, and it opens up doors and opportunities that will then get you to have a livable or a better existence. But with you, that sort of crippled you in as much as you didn't even put your hand up or did not even want a promotion when you later grew up and things like that. What did you lose, if you would maybe recollect? What did you actually stand to lose by not having spoken up?
Well, part of my story is that, I've been training as a coach for probably 50 years in different modalities, not always public speaking coach, and certainly more one-on-one than leading groups or anything like that. I did that, but it was a brutal experience for me. So one of the people that I trained with at the very beginning of his career was Tony Robbins. Literally, when he was first launching his career, I worked on his team. I was taking training from him. I wanted to be Tony Robbins deeply. And yet, I had this crippling fear. So beyond that, I mean, it went on and on with many different experiences throughout my working life where I had opportunities to go move into a leadership or management position. And I just went, yeah, I'm good. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. And so that was a whole side of myself of being a leader that I shut off, that I went, it's easier to hide. And, that's a lifelong regret. I think in a lot of ways that powered how amazingly transformative the experience at Ultra Speaking was for me. Because I had this huge burning need inside of me that had been cooking for 50 years almost, that went, I have an answer. I can be myself in front of other people. Holy shit, this is amazing. And I just really took off from that point. I literally was in class putting my hand up first in front of everybody else and going, what are you doing? Part of me. And the other part of me is going, yeah, I want to be front and center. I want to be learning as fast as I can, pushing this, challenging myself in every way possible. It was like the one little core piece of my life. Like I mentioned, martial arts, some of the adventuring that I've done. I had an innate need to challenge myself, to push the envelope. But speaking, I just couldn't get over that hump until Ultra Speaking.
Mm. Now, Mark, it's incredible that you literally were at the helm of Tony Robbins starting. I know of people that just go and burn their feet on the weekend and come back, buy a laptop, and call themselves a coach or things of that nature. But you literally were at the start of. I've watched his videos. You can hardly hear him because he hadn't fully grasp where he was going with that. And now obviously he fills up stadiums, and there was maybe 3 or 4 people in the room, and maybe you're one of those people. I'm gonna look at the videos and and go back to that. Now I can see maybe the opportunity cost of what you would have missed out had you maybe been able to speak at that particular time, and and started off with that level of learning, especially with one of the greatest speakers I've known to anybody who might be listening this. Now, even that didn't move you. But what was it about discovering Ultra Speaking that became a turning point for you? Because this is the one thing that became a game changer for you. Or is it because there was games involved and the introvert in you was like, yeah, I can win this and things of that nature?
I mean, I didn't understand it at the time. The first class, I sucked at the games. But by the end, I was going, you know what? There's one thing I know about myself. I can practice and get good at just about anything. It takes reps. I'm a grinder. I put reps in and I'll get good at it. Whether it was in basketball, shooting foul shots, or whether it was, triathlons or fighting, it didn't matter. If I put the work in, I could get good at it. And so I went, I can practice these games and I can get good at this. So that was like a revelation. Part of what makes the games work is practicing in front of other people. Practicing under pressure is the thing that most of us introverted, shy people, people who are afraid of public speaking, have never done. We avoid it. And yet that's the key that unlocks the ability to then surf the anxiety rather than being overwhelmed by it. When we constantly avoid it, we're not going into the fire. And you have to go into the fire in order to be able to survive it. So that's a key part of it. I think practicing in front of other people, doing it off the cuff, all these little pieces, all the building blocks, because we start with separating content from confidence, with learning how to pause, tell stories, etc. All these little pieces that you work on in an Ultra Speaking course all keep building on top of each other so that each, rather than trying to do it all at once, you're working on one piece and then you add in another piece, and suddenly in 5 weeks, you're a good speaker. Is that an end? Of course not. Does it mean that you're comfortable? No. Welcome to having a human body. You still have risk. You're still going to feel the adrenaline. It's still going to happen. But now you have the tools to be able to literally take a breath and lower the anxiety level so that you can be you and express yourself. Even totally off the cuff without preparation, which is, I love to do that.
I love that. I love that. I mean, we were speaking earlier that I think it was Seinfeld that mentioned that some people would rather be the one in the coffin than be the one that's delivering the eulogy. It's like people would rather be dead than be caught speaking in front of an audience. And this is not necessarily in a business setting. I mean, we're talking about a funeral here. It could be a wedding, or it could be speaking at a family gathering or function, or just, people of your community, your church, or things of that nature. And half of the stuff is within, everybody, people don't really judge us as much as we judge ourselves. And I think from what you're saying, half of the things are pointing towards you having been the biggest obstacle in your own growth, because you were exposed to all these people, Tony Robbins and everything else. And I've given an example of how people just hear him on radio while walking past a radio shop, and automatically they become a coach. You know what I mean? It's that instant. What sort of internal shifts have you had to undergo to move past these imposed limitations? Because as you said, it's taken 50 years and playing
Well,
games.
I mean, it's the daily practice that I put in. Ultimately, there's no end to how good you can be. So, as much time as I have left in this life, I want to get better at being me in front of other people because it feels so darn good. It's very fulfilling. Plus, helping other people has always been a core part of my journey. So, like I mentioned, I've been working on coaching all kinds of different things from sports to, helping people in, NLP coaching. I have many different certifications in hypnotherapy and all sorts of stuff. But ultimately, it was all about helping other people be more themselves and have a more fulfilled life. And being able to just help a little bit, help people do that with speaking. Wow, it's the best job I've ever had by far. And it's really a lot of fun. So that's great to be 68 years old and have finally discovered the thing that I was meant to do all my life is pretty cool. At least I found it. Yeah, it was a long journey to get here, but I found it and I'm not going to stop now. And I'm going to keep working on my skills as a speaker because it's fun.
I mean, congratulations. So many people go through their life without having discovered it. I mean, obviously for you, you had to go to Everest base camp. You had to cycle all around, Western America, just finding the thing that already was within, and now you're just sharing your gift with the world. But Mark, somebody might stand here and be like, "But yeah, I'm not that disciplined, or I don't have that kind of access," because there's somebody who's still hung up on the fact that, well, you had the greatest trainer in the world. I mean, you had front row seats to Tony Robbins. So how can I even compare and compete, with other people? Does this actually work on other humans?
Well, yeah, of course. The company wouldn't exist without it. And my career as coaching other people wouldn't exist without it. I mean, it's extremely powerful. I'm rock solid confidence because I've never failed with anyone. It's people always always get better. I mean, ultimately, I'm really working on what's the next thing. The next thing for me was, well, okay, I've always was shy. I didn't like conversation all that much. I didn't like small talk. A lot of people share that with me. And so, how do you create deeper conversations with people? Is sort of the next training that I'm in the midst of creating right now. So conversation for shy people, so that you can go to that meetup or networking meeting and be completely comfortable. Never run out of something to say, never run into a place where you blank, the uncomfortable silence, that you're able to truly connect with another human being, which is the whole purpose of communication, of conversation. Not, how's the weather today? And we sort of have this kind of high level, never venturing into what's really important, like we're doing right now. You probably know way more about me. If we were in a conversation, I'd be digging into what makes Prosper go. What is it that took you from Zimbabwe to Australia on this crazy journey of getting on a plane and arriving there, and what was that like? And
Mm,
finding out who Prosper really is. Because
mm.
that's what creates friendships. That's what creates connection in my book and experience. And it's a skill. It ain't any different than public speaking. There's specific skills to practice to get better at public speaking. There's specific skills to practice at conversation so that you can get much better at creating connection with other human beings.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing that makes this world a better place. The more we can connect and share and collaborate, because we're all coming from all walks of life. And if we come together, I think there's a statement in our African culture that says, if you want to go far, you go alone. But if you want to go further, you go together. But how do you rally the troops and bring everybody else together? Now, part of what you're doing in the coaching realm is you did mention that speaking to yourself in the mirror and saying affirmations and all those things doesn't quite work and things of that nature, but you are emphasizing the speaking practice, or maybe, practice under pressure, so to speak, and you're using games to solicit that. Can you maybe elaborate why this method is so effective in building confidence instead of just maybe putting yourself in a Zoom meeting like this and speaking till the cows come home or things of that nature?
Sure. There's like I mentioned, there's specific skills that they're like building blocks. That's the way I visualize it. They're like building blocks. So just like a little kid puts Legos together to create something, when you lock these pieces into place into your experience, get it in the muscle, in other words, through practice, through repetition, repetition that's under pressure is the most effective, then at first you suck at it. That's how learning anything is. Compare your first podcast with now. Pretty drastic difference. My first video a few thousand ago and now. Pretty drastic difference. But that's true from anything. That's true from when we were little children, learning how to walk or speak, right through to whatever thing is you're learning now. At first you suck. And then with practice, with repetition, with diligence, with discipline, if you will, you start to get better and better. And then it's just a question of, okay, how far do you want to go? How good do you want to get? And then, if you're more like a professional, like for me, I treat it like a professional basketball or football player or whoever, footy player. You put the reps in. You practice your skills. You can't do it without that. Even after, like LeBron James, still practicing after 20 years of professional basketball, still practicing every day, still in the off season, still practicing, because that's what it takes. to get better and maintain your skill level and increase it a little bit or understand the game at a different level, speaking is exactly the same. So what I'm interested in right now is, would you like to have an experience of the games?
Oh, let's play.
All right, I don't know if I can share my screen.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, it's something that you've been working on and something that obviously we've been talking about. Thank you so much for bringing us into your world.
Hey, my pleasure. This is a game that one of the big untold things, like silence, in a way, what we call it in ultra speaking is that silence is sort of the bedrock of speaking, that everything comes from there. Typically, what we think is that, or certainly the nerves power, that if I have my minute to speak, I'm going to hammer as many words into that minute as I possibly can. And yet, sort of the overarching mindset that we try and use is less is more. It's not about the words, it's about the emotion. How can you connect to yourself? How can you take a breath and pause and really connect to what's important to say? And so this particular game is called Snow Globe. And what you get, and just to demonstrate roughly what you explain what's going on, you get a random title. So then clearly you take a pause at the start. What do I want to say about getting lost? This is all internal. And then I start speaking. And then the countdown comes along and tells me I need to finish that sentence that I'm on. And now I take a breath. Really focusing on the longer exhale, because that breath with longer exhales is the strongest signal that's capable to send to your nervous system to calm down. And then you continue on with what you're talking about, and it finish the sentence. And in that moment of respite, you go, what's deeper? What's even more important to say? So, you have the idea.
All right.
You're on the spot. Here we go, sir.
Absolutely. Holding it together. So we were on a flight, and I actually lost my passport. I actually had left it at home, and oh, what am I supposed to do now? I can't do the time.
Breathe. Good.
Okay, and I asked my wife. I actually then called my wife to bring my passport to the airport, and she made it in time. I did not freak out to her, and I didn't want her to panic because I didn't want her to speed all the way to the airport. That particular incident taught me how to just stay calm. Even if I was going to miss the flight, it wasn't going to be the end of the world. And ever since then, yeah, it's never really freaked me out, no matter what's happening in my life.
Good. Excellent. How is that for you?
I must say, I mean, obviously that was having to think on the spot, and the yeah, and it just really, I didn't know where to start with the story, but I knew the theme of it was holding it together. So I was also rushing to try and match the time and things of that nature. But it did. Wow. Okay. It got me to think of the scenario, what was happening, the characters that were in there, and just saying the things that are important enough for the story, because I'm not going to be like, oh, it was a lovely day and I was on my trip to whatnot. So, yeah, I don't know. Did that come across as what is supposed to happen in that particular exercise?
Of course it did. I mean, whatever you present us with, whatever gift you give us while you're speaking is absolutely what's supposed to happen. Whether it was, ideally, if I was coaching you more, I would say, well, okay, next time, don't break character. So stay, if we don't know that you don't know what's coming next until you tell us. We think that we're see-through, we think we're transparent, but people can't actually see and feel when we start to freak out a little bit. Just like you didn't freak out at the airport. Your wife couldn't tell that there was probably some energy behind what you were talking about, but you just presented and told her, hey, could you bring my passport? And she was fine with it. She didn't feel like she was going to freak out, take your freak out energy that you didn't have your passport and get too ramped up. It's exactly the same with public speaking. So if you don't reveal that to people, oh God, I just screwed that up. They never know. That's the difference between good speakers and great speakers. No speech is perfect, but great speakers know how to recover. So that's part of what we're practicing is that, yeah, you might screw up a little bit. So what? You keep going. You don't reveal it. You don't break down in the moment. You just, take another breath and keep going. And as you practice it more, you start to notice that when you take that breath and have the long exhale, your nerves settle down. And now you have access to your unconscious mind, which is vastly more powerful than the prefrontal cortex, the default mode circuits in your brain that is all the noise that's trying to figure everything out and lock it all down ahead of time. Your unconscious is millions of times more powerful than that. In fact, it's putting all the words together in the sentence for you automatically. We don't think about which thing is coming next in the sentence. We just do it. That's all unconscious. So speaking, where we're going is a conscious activity. The unconscious part of it, putting it all together, being able to you adapt in that moment to something that's pretty darn hard, honestly. You did extremely well with being not just saying what you wanted to say, but putting a personal story into it. Wow, that's incredible. And it was a good story as well. And you just adapted and you shortened it up and you got right to the point and you dove straight into it. Exceptional. Can tell you do a lot of speaking and you're a quote unquote natural storyteller. You tell a lot of stories. So you're really good at it.
I appreciate that, and I'm gonna take that. But knowing what I know about certain things and people like yourself that have taken the time to really dive deep into speaking and things of that nature, I'm always looking to improve. I mean, there could be aspects of the way I speak or the way I present myself. I mean, I'm coming from a totally different background where English is not my first language. So half of the time, most of that time when I was thinking about, I was actually in my own language and then translating and then. So there's so much that happens in the background and then trying to present it and things of that nature. So there could be things that you may have seen either in my videos or in the way that I speak or the way that I present myself. Be nice, because this is my show. But if you say things that I don't like, we just don't air those parts, and then we'll deal with that.
Well, what I would suggest, and this is generalized advice for everyone. We all could slow down, especially in English. I mean, I've coached probably over half the people I've coached. English is a second, third, fourth language. And in many of like in the Eastern languages or in the Romance languages, it's incredibly fast the way they speak. But in English, we speak slower. And if you really want to influence and show people that you're a leader, taking your time, taking that pause at the start. Someone's fired a question at you, and you take 2 or 3 seconds before you answer. You can use nonverbal signals. Will Smith is really good at this in interviews. He just, well, let me think. Here's what I want to say about that. What does that show? That shows audacious confidence. Even if you're nervous, you can pull this off. And then the audience thinks, wow, this guy is incredibly confident. He just sort of smoothly goes through everything. And again, less is more. How do I get into what I really feel about this so that I express my deepest truth about what I'm talking about? That's what connects us. It's that emotional contagion. And the more I can do that in my speaking, get out of the worry and again trying to figure out what the right words are and really connect to my heart, which frankly in your culture is kind of the baseline. So I
Mm.
think in a lot of ways that's an advantage
Yeah,
for you.
absolutely.
Where for those of us who've grown up in Western culture, it was all about having the right words. Blah, 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 blah. You know, and that's not how we connect. That's not how human beings work. That's not how our neurology, which is the same, doesn't matter where you are in the world. We have the same nervous system. That means that's the way that we connect with each other. And stories is just another shortcut way to dive into those feelings. That's why they're so powerful. That's why we love stories. It doesn't
Mm.
matter any culture, everybody loves stories.
Absolutely. I mean, that's how we're wired, really. I mean, there's so many things that just makes sense to the average human. We all know what rain is, and we all know what the sun is, and things of that nature. So there's universal things. Just because it's in a different geographical place, they still know the sound of rain. They still know what that means and what that signifies, which is maybe a bumper harvest or a thunderstorm. So it depends on what that looks like in that realm. So obviously you've worked with people in like 48 different countries and things of that nature. So you're very cognizant to things like that. But there's one thing that also constitutes speaking, or dare I say communication. You alluded to it a little bit, which is the nonverbal part that you went there, which so many people get wrong. In other cultures, they don't know yes, they shake their head yes. And
Yeah.
that presents a whole big quagmire when people are trying to convey something and somebody's like, of course, I would like to have a pizza with you and beer. And that's my favorite drink to have. And you like, you're kind of sending mixed signals here, sir.
So the research that's been done, Albert Maharabian, way back in the 70s, did a research in specific context that it was 7% words of communication was 7% words, 38% tone, and 55% was body language. Now, I think that shifts pretty drastically depending on the circumstance. So, but at best, we're probably looking at 20% of the communication is the words. So, why are we so worried about the words in English? Really, when we start to have that feeling, when we start to really express ourselves fully with our face, with our tone, with which is the most unconscious thing of all. People don't even pay attention to tone, really. We pick that up from other people, and we don't even realize that, oh, this guy's angry, because you can hear it right away in my voice tone. I'm upset. This is not good. But when I change it, suddenly now it's like, oh, a little bit more introspective. So being able to play with that is sort of advanced speaking, but it's so much fun. And this is the stuff that I learned from Tony Robbins and onwards with other people in NLP over many years of practice and training in that modality of how to communicate with people. And the nonverbals, the body expression in ultra speaking, we feel like that's not about, suddenly being able to, haha, stylize things as though you're some actor on the stage, but let that come naturally. And as you get far deeper into really letting yourself express yourself authentically, then your nonverbals, your body language, whatever you want to call it, naturally comes forth. And that's real. And it doesn't matter whether you're shaking your head yes or no or whatever it is, because you are expressing that fully. It's the full 3D surround sound version of communicating and connecting with another human being. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for obviously explaining that part. Now, for those that are interested in sort of working with you there, Mark, first of all, what sort of services besides, the game you've shown us that Lively Speaking offer, and how can they get a hold of you?
So the best place I'm on the only social media I prefer at this point is LinkedIn.
I don't blame
So
you.
that's you can find me on LinkedIn as well, or you can email me at I am at markbossert.com. That's a really foolproof way of getting a hold of me. Or my website, livelyspeaking.com. If you're interested in the course or courses, because there's an entire spectrum of courses now at Ultra Speaking over the last 5 years. They've developed many different levels of training in public speaking. And so ultraspeaking.com is a fantastic resource. I couldn't recommend it more highly, honestly. If you want one-to-one coaching from me, that's at livelyspeaking.com. And if you're interested perhaps in the conversation course that I've got coming up, reach out to me at iam@markbossert.com, and I can put you on the pre-launch list, which will give you a better price on it and some information as I get ready to launch that next month.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links and details are in the show notes so that people can actually get started
Appreciate it.
on that journey. Now, Mark, I mean, we could go on and talk and things of that nature. And I'm actually surprised that an introvert has, come full circle and all the way, like you have. And congratulations on that journey. I mean, when we started, you introduced us to the boy that was in eighth grade who literally was peeing their pants just to, I don't know if that was a survival mechanism or things of that nature, because skunks literally excrete certain substances just to get people away from them. And I think octopuses do spray an ink, and maybe that was your human perception of that particular instinct of just getting people away from you and so they don't speak to you because you would blush and things of that nature. Now, if that eighth grader would maybe show up and want to participate in your games today, knowing what you know now and who you've become, what would be the first thing that you would tell him to start doing just so he could get on that path?
I don't think it's any different than what I do now, honestly. I think if I practice every day smiling and just saying hi to people and starting a conversation. Now, if I'm feeling a little bit nervous about meeting someone new, then I automatically, to some extent, notice it and then go, okay, and I walk up to a stranger and I go, can you give me $100? And it spurs the wildest reactions from people. And almost every time, it spurs an incredibly deep conversation. Why the heck would you ask me that? No, and Why are you asking me that? And then I think, well, I'm trying to get over my fear of connecting with other people. What? And then off we go. It gets deep really quickly after that. And it's something that all people share to some extent. The amount, I think it's we over indexed for how many people are extroverts compared to how shy and reserved we really are as human beings, certainly in this culture here in Canada. And so it's just really nice to reach out and connect with people. I'll do it in the line at the grocery store. I'll make funny jokes and talk with the people and ask, "Hey, my name's Mark. Welcome. Thank you for having me. What's the Mark discount on the milk today?" just to see what happens. And they're in automatic mode, and suddenly it's like, "What? What's going on?" And so you start to connect with people. I would practice that, honestly. That would be my advice to a young child. Don't be afraid of stepping out. If you have an opportunity to speak in front of people, to perform in a play, to do something where you are scared, all the scary stuff, all the good stuff in life starts with being scared of it. I mean, how scared were you getting on the plane when you left Zimbabwe
Oh,
or wherever you flew from to Australia? I'm
that's right.
sure it was pretty terrifying. I remember when I moved my family, with a 6-week-old son from Vancouver to Hawaii with no job, no prospects, little money, and I just went, I'm going to make it work. And it was terrifying. And yet I did it. That's where all the good stuff happens, because that was a magical time to be living in Hawaii. So all the
Fantastic.
good stuff happens from being scared.
Wow. Thank you so much for giving us that insight because so many people literally stifle their own growth just because they are afraid to speak up. And I feel I kind of may blame society because I've had to stop my wife once in a while, because they were watching a TV show, Bluey, and I think something like that, and they were talking stranger danger, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. When I met you, you were a stranger. Everyone I'm meeting is a stranger. It's only when you get to speak to them. I mean, obviously, yes, we have to be protective of our kids, but I think it as adults, you can't still be afraid of other human beings or other adults if you're in an environment where obviously it's created to be safe. So it's small things like that. I don't know what people would do with this information today, but I'm really, really excited to have had this wonderful chat with you, Mark. I mean, your life story and your experience resonates with so many people, and some, because fish don't see the water that they swim in, and neither do we see the air that we breathe in. You were asking me to breathe deep, but we don't see what that is actually doing. So many people are walking blind without knowing that every time you get to speak to a stranger like you do, you open up avenues of things that would not have happened had you not literally opened your mouth.
Absolutely. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Been fantastic meeting you. We'll do it again.
Oh, great stuff! I really want to do that game, but thank you so much for sharing your profound journey and insights with us today. I mean, your own transformation and your from being that fearful eighth grader to now becoming this confident coach is really a testament of the perseverance, with the right guidance and with the right, methods. So for those that are listening right now, if you actually found resonance in Mark's story, please consider reaching out to Lively Speaking so you can also embark on your journey towards confident communication. Because if you really want to be heard at work, at church, in your community, you literally have to open your mouth. You gotta speak to be heard. Now, if this episode has inspired you, I also would encourage you to share it with somebody who might benefit from Mark's experience, all right? Somebody who obviously is not going to be doing a TED talk in the next 2 days, but somebody who maybe feels butterflies, nerves, or fear, or just anxiety when it comes to speaking in public. It doesn't matter if it's for work, if it's a church, or just maybe it could be a birthday. It could be your son or daughter's wedding or a friend's wedding. You're the best man and you can't speak to just make their day the best day ever. And obviously you don't want to ruin it for people, because these days there's cameras and things of that nature, and that stuff when it goes on the internet, it's etched in stone. So there's people like Mark who will definitely help you be, do, and have a happier existence if you can only open your mouth and be able to speak your way to whatever it is that you want. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more insightful conversations like this one. Until next time, keep striving for growth and embracing the challenges that lead to your own remarkable transformation. Bye for now.